you have your agenda. We're going to kind of run through several things. Mr. Walker is going to probably have some input on it. We asked that Ms. Ming be here because she's been helping with the financial side of things, obviously. But we think we have a good plan in place. Right? So we wanted y'all's input as well. If there's something that comes up, just let us know. But we have current status of devices is what Mr. Walker printed for you in the color and then just on the Google sheet. So Mr. Walker, do you want to talk about that for just a bit?
So on the color page, so basically what this shows, the red column, this is our current inventory, and actually I think the last cart we purchased for high school is missing off of this, and then the one from the 16 cart for yours is missing off of this. So the red, those have actually already expired. If you don't know about the Chromebooks, when you buy a Chromebook, it has an expiration date on there, and what it means is after that date, it no longer updates. And why that's important, with the online testing, you have to have the latest browsers or 1 or 2 under. So even though it's expired, you can get 6 months to a year out of it after that point, but there's no guarantee. So it's best to have them at least current. So the red, that means they have already expired. The yellow, they're expiring in June of 2022, actually June 1st, 2022. So that leaves us 382 devices out of our 1,056 that are current. So that's not good. So luckily this plan is coming into place. So that's kind of to show what the status of the current devices are. And then if we flip to this next sheet, those of you that know me very long, my job is to support. It's not to sit here and drive technology or drive instruction, and everything needs to be an instructional need. And so that's basically what this is, and Ms. Graves did this, of where our instructional needs are. Obviously we want more, but our actual bare minimum needs, and that's what this list is. Kindergarten, we need 70, so on and so forth, CTE classes. So we've determined our best estimate is we need 1,190 devices from an instructional need perspective. And then if we take that 382 that we do have available until 2026, then that means we need to purchase 808 to get us up to what we consider our minimum instructional need. Okay, looking at the financials, we got an estimate on the 808, and we just to show you top right hand, the device cost is $193.51. There's a license involved and then the white glove. So what the white glove is, just so you can understand in my world, is all the devices we have to touch and we have to enroll as well. To me, the biggest thing with that many devices is unboxing. We find a place to throw them away. Part of White Glove is they'll take care of that for us. So they're going to deliver them ready to go. Total cost per device, $234.22. So that's where all the numbers get crunched together. We looked at carts, and I think there's a lot of extra surplus carts at elementary because you are changing the way you're using them in the classroom, which is great if you're adapting to your needs, but that's going to produce some carts that we can reutilize somewhere else. We think we're probably going to need 16 carts, and that's something we can kind of hammer down maybe in this meeting. If we think we need more, make sure we get that accounted for as well. Because we think we have a little bit more budget money, we went ahead and put some optionals out there. That's what that 5th column under optional add is. Additional 110. So we're looking at a grand total. If we do the optionals, the carts, and of course our bare minimum needs, we're at $230,000, and we're pretty comfortable with that. We're within budget with the monies that are available. So, any questions? I went really fast.
Okay, so
Well,
go ahead.
is this the time to talk about these things if you want to talk about it? Okay, so on carts, I think, I don't know how the district wants to do that, but at the junior high, if we had classroom sets, I don't know that we necessarily need carts. I know it shows on here adding 6 carts, but if we got it to where we're not, I mean, because our carts don't move very often, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
And that's what the third bullet is. It's talking about the core model down here.
Okay.
That's the intention of the purchase, is that they would be departmentalized carts. So they're not moving very often. It's not a one-to-one. These devices wouldn't be going home. They're staying on campus in your math department, for example. And we've got 4 through 12 there. That's where they would be departmentalized.
The cart does make it a handy place to store. I know at the elementary school you are looking at more centers, which that's kind of a permanent setup. And if you've got a place to store them in the classroom, we don't necessarily have to do carts. I mean, we're just kind of brainstorming and
Okay.
kind of being, if we can stretch those out, we'll be happy to.
How are you gonna store them in the classroom and charge them all?
I mean, we obviously get
Every
power
afternoon
strips.
and throughout the day, how are you
The
gonna charge?
elementary uses 12 count surge protectors,
Right.
but again, that works more for the
Right.
elementary model. It may not work as well for your secondary model. You're just gonna have to figure that part out, but absolutely, if we don't need more carts, we
Yeah.
can.
What do those little carry things cost? Those little plastic,
So those are actually parts of carts.
they are.
Like, go
Yeah.
inside.
They go with the cart. So that really.
I had Mr. Hausner working on something to see if he can create something on his own. So I may see what he comes up with,
Okay.
and then
I mean, you almost could, if and again, it would take some construction, you know.
yeah, he's got some construction background, so he might create something that we could.
Building like
Implement.
mailbox top things,
Mhm.
you know, more or less like a permanent mounted cart. So, but yeah, if you'll let us know, then we can just, if we need to scratch that.
I mean, if we can find a way to do it that way instead of purchasing the carts for over $1,000 a piece, I mean, we're okay with that too, because they're staying in the classroom.
Right. And so the only issue that comes is next year, if it gets to where you have an extra classroom and we can't buy the extra and you do need to share, I mean, that, the cart doesn't make it handy. And the cart, so I don't know, space-wise in your classrooms, a cart may be too much. It
And there's
does make it-
different versions of them. I know at the elementary, the ones that are the most popular are the newest ones that you bought with those 5 carts. It's a smaller rectangular box, or the uprights, which are thin and taller, and they even have a tabletop where some teachers use it more of a podium style. So there's different options. I don't know what this is. Is this the same black
I think
ones that
so.
we purchased in
It's
the last ones?
Yes.
Okay, so those ones that are in, those
So
last 4 that you
Those
bought.
top loading carts that have the top that slides, those are the ones with the baskets, and those they're really nice carts, but they're expensive. So we're looking at more the lesser expensive, the more cost effective models.
And they are smaller, and
Yes.
they're a side front door open.
Yes.
Nice and tidy.
Alright.
But yes, if you can let us know on that sooner than later.
And then on the white glove, is that they're just unboxing or they're doing some type of
So they're enrolling them. So
So
it's probably 5 minutes a device,
okay?
and then the unboxing and get rid of the trash.
So there's some type of when you say enrolling, and is
So,
that like
when you-
computer program?
It
Let me
actually
go
is,
there.
it's a real simple step. It's you hit like Control E, type in a quick username and password, and then you're done. So it's really simple. It's something we could do, but when you start getting up to the scale of 900, to be on the boxing and unboxing, I just did 200 myself. Last winter, and it was probably at least 2 to 3 hours of physically getting out the boxes, get the boxes to the pickup, get them to the dumpster, and that's if you can find an empty dumpster. So
We would probably fill 3 dumpsters just with the trash
Right.
from this purchase.
yeah, easy. Which means that week nobody else can use the dumpster. So it's an ordeal. It's very time consuming. So it's
I will also say that the price of the device is about just the overall $234. We paid closer to $275 on the last one, so we're saving $40 just because of the bulk purchase and then the change in cost. Because I looked them up whenever we were doing it, and then the last purchases that we had made, it was closer to $275. So we're getting more bang for our buck since the prices come down. With that being said, you're probably wondering where $230,000 is coming from. That is the additional ESSER 2 grant. We met last week and went through the numbers and feel that ESSER 2, it's written to help with devices, and therefore we can use this money with that. And then there will still be some left over that will still go towards instructional purchases, things like that. This does not touch ESSER 3, so this is all completely separate from ESSER 3, which is what we've been purchasing supplies with. Ms. Ming, do you want to kind of go over what ESSER 2 and what can be purchased?
ESSER 2 is just basically, it's to help with the learning on that they feel was lost during COVID. And so ESSER 3 and ESSER 2 are to address those. And then we also have an ESSER supplement that we have those monies from too, that also in addition to ESSER 2 and 3 to help with those costs. So
And there is a timeline on ESER2.
ESER 2 is the end of this year.
So we have to be pretty quick with this. This is one thing that we saw a need. When you're looking at 382 devices that are green for a whole district, that's frightening. So that's where this has come about. Mr. Walker and I have already requested to put it on the board agenda for January. So if there's some tweaks or changes, we're open to it, but it is kind of a fast moving project. What we kind of looked at is that is if it is approved in January for the purchase, that they would be here before the end of the school year.
What do we do with the devices that expire? Do we leave
So-
them to where you can just access internet, or they're worthless? Or?
They will be able to access the internet, and like the elementary school, the lower grades that aren't testing, they'll be ideal for that.
Okay.
And if you want to hang some around your campus, I think.
So does it say for students, if we happen to run into the student needs to check one out?
Right, that'd probably be ideal for
That'd be
that.
ideal to keep a
Will they
handful
update?
on the side.
No.
Okay.
So basically, whatever level they're at when they expire, that's as high as they can go. And so, in which a lot of the software will continue to work, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. The testing software will not. So.
Right.
And so that's why the big push for 3 through 12 will have those newer devices. And then K2, again, it may be some of these 382 that are on campus, but like the silver card that's in 2nd grade, that's on its last leg. So that would eventually go out,
Okay.
much like the iPads did.
Okay.
And remind you, this does not include iPads, it's just
Yeah, we
Chromes.
have one on it.
Right, we're not counting any of that because a lot of them are so old that they're not updating as well. I think 140, how many did y'all pick up the other day?
I don't remember.
Went, they're done. So this is not even counting those. Questions so far? Anything? Concerns? If you look at the optional ad, that's something that I would like to do, and what we're talking about, and the next part is your labs, Mr. McCullough. And it kind of affects the junior high as well. Again, this is an idea. It's not set in stone yet, but if you had those additional 60, something that Mr. Walker and I really wanted to know is what the purpose of that library lab is and what the purpose of lab 2 is, not Mr. Taylor's lab. Like, what do they do?
Right, the art lab, they have their computers, they just do credit recovery mainly.
Okay.
And then we use it for our college algebra, college English on the days they're not with their college professor.
Okay.
They go in there and they do the work, they can work from that, but I mean,
That's
as far as.
So Chromebook would be-
Couldn't it?
Good,
Okay.
yeah, it could be a Chromebook, that lab could be a Chromebook easy, so could the library.
Okay.
Either one of them, if that's the route we needed to go, they could both be used. Our English teachers use it for research as far as the library
Okay.
lab,
Absolutely.
but again,
Chrome's
Chromebook, you can go that route with any of those.
Perfect. So the idea is that we use that additional 60 that would be on your campus for those 2 labs.
Okay.
And you may not need 30 per lab, we would just have to look at that, but that's just something we wanted to put out there. And then the idea is also to move Mr. Taylor's lab down to, is it Coach Crawford, Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Down to Coach Crawford's lab, and then he would be able to start working on
Replacing
that lab room.
Replacing
Mhm.
work with Mr. Taylor to make sure we get something that's fitting for his classes.
Gotcha. What kind of timeline are you looking at that?
When we get the money. So, basically, I haven't really started the assessment with him to see how many he needs. Budget wise, we can't afford a full 30 station lab right now.
Gotcha.
But there may be, if he has reduced numbers, we may be able to swing it.
Okay.
I have a question. We don't, like, they're not one-on-one, they don't have their same
Correct.
computer all the way through.
Correct.
No.
Is there a reason why?
The district has decided not to do that yet. And then.
We just haven't had enough devices to sustain it either way. I mean,
And when you do that, you add a lot of repair costs because you have a lot of breakage. And we probably have to look at increasing staff to be able to support that.
Okay.
So our day-to-day, if we get one for every classroom, a cart, when something breaks, who's our day-to-day go-to? Is that just y'all can go and fix it all?
Yeah. I think we'll be able to sustain to handle this, and if we get to a point where we can't, we'll reevaluate.
so that's the plan with labs. Hopefully, we would have to look at that, but that at least puts those 60 in there because I know the library lab is basically done. There's nothing that those computers can do. They can't run testing, you can't do TELPOS, you can't do anything in them. So that would come with this early purchase, and hopefully then we're not so far behind. The additional 50 at elementary is for the additional projected growth. At the last board meeting, they said that elementary is projected to be at 868. next year, so that's another 100 kids. So the extra 50 would go that route. Okay, teacher laptops. Secondary has not been updated in years. They're awful. They're very big. What we would like to do, since ESSER is available, that frees up TEMA, which is our instructional materials allotment. We would like to push that money just straight to Mr. Walker to start making a plan for teacher devices at the secondary, the laptops. One thing that we brought up, or we talked about, and this is, we just like y'all's input, and if you want staff input, I guess we can go that far, is that, you think they would need this enormous laptop? Do you think they would be comfortable with a 14-inch? Do you think it would still be a laptop and it would still run everything? The question is the size.
What does the elementary have?
I think those are 15s. So
They're a little bit smaller than this. I
Yeah, those, I believe the ones that administrators have are 17s,
Mhm.
which are huge. I mean,
Do
They don't fit in the backpack.
15?
They don't care.
They don't care.
I think anything we give them unless it's a little small screen. I think they'll
Right.
be excited that hey, it works.
New laptop.
Yeah.
Yes,
Save your life some.
that they can move around with it out of it.
That's my big thing. Is like I know a lot of them like to take them. I know their coaches are mobile all the time. This does not fit in my backpack.
My personal opinion is those big ones are so behemoth to carry around, and this nice little portable 13 is wonderful, lightweight, and so that's why I tend to go more towards small. I know you don't get the screen size out of it, but I think if you were using screen all day, every day, that might be an issue. But for me, that's my preference. Like I said, the 14 inch is what we're kind of targeting. That's I guess a compromise. So.
Take bigger
So
than that.
that's the
smaller.
deal. You go and get on your computer at your desk,
Right.
and you have a big screen. So
Right.
it's only every so often you're
Right.
realizing that our teachers and
Right.
us will use them all the time.
Right.
So
And
that's
so you have to balance that out versus having to lug the thing around. So that's why I want your input.
I think for ours, the bigger would be the preference, because my staff does not haul their laptops around a lot. If any. I mean, there's a few that might, but
So we're looking at
most of
14.
them are sitting on the desk.
We're looking at 14. Do we need to jump up to 15 or even larger? Because that's going to drive the cost up.
what is that one?
So this is 13.
That's 13.
Yeah. So
But this is 17.
yeah,
Right.
I think 17 is too big.
Yeah.
But that's just that again. I'm not looking
No,
at it
I'm-
every day. So
17 is pretty large.
and of course, with the prices of screens coming down, we can always look at some point purchasing screens for everybody. And then when they get into the classroom,
What's the computer going to be? I mean, what are we getting?
It'll be Dell.
It's a Dell.
Dell, yes. It Windows.
Right.
I'm not ready to jump to Mac just yet.
Are you sure?
Well,
Can you
it's
just get one Mac?
there's a lot of Macs. I don't. If you want a Mac, I don't have a problem having a Mac. But it just the management that
But
goes
you have a
along with
line item for that, don't you?
it gets.
I'm just kidding.
I
Okay,
would say
so
whatever the biggest screen we can afford. That'd be my preference.
Yes, whatever we can afford. I would say I would give it that too.
so we're
If we
looking-
ended up with 14, if 14 was the number, would y'all think they'd be okay with that, or do we?
I think that'd be fine.
They'll
because
make
it's
do
new,
with whatever they do.
yeah, and they don't even have to know that there was an option, to be honest.
Correct. And it's functional.
Okay. Yes.
And, and they
Back-
plug it,
back-
it doesn't die.
Right.
And I think if we could just say, if you are one who needs a screen, if we had some available.
Okay.
they can have this one.
No, not for when they do set it at their desk and they want to spend some time working on it. I think if they had another monitor
I have.
to,
And if y'all that have a second monitor, once you have a second monitor, it's like you can never be without
You
it.
can.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just, I mean, they
It's
have
hard.
the add-ons now. I'm surprised y'all haven't asked for those add-ons that you can
No,
slap on your
I need
laptop.
that.
so when would we purchase those? So to start the school year next year?
So then we need to go to the board as well. And as soon as the board approves, I'm gonna get the PO going and get them in the house. And I personally do not have a problem start handing them out before the end of the year.
The TEMA purchase is a little bit different because you have to go
Right.
through the IMA process. So it is a little more of a time constraint, but if we're all in agreement, we're looking at 75 devices for secondary staff, is what we kind of totaled up based off the input that y'all gave. And then everything else, all those others would just go away. And that's another thing that we're talking about is just trying to figure out how that would happen if
And we're looking
between
at
iPads and other things.
professional instructional staff. So-
Perfect, yes, certified teachers.
Can we go back to the lab? Sorry.
Sure.
if this is the time, I would like to look at adding another lab at some point. You know,
Okay.
I think there used to be 2 labs at the junior high. Right now we've got Coach Crawford's class, and then we've got Blaze who's using Chromebooks. But if we were gonna
So what?
repurpose some
So
desktops, I think we could.
So that's
Definitely
one of the
use
things. When we're repurposing desktops, we're trying to get rid of our trash. Or you want to keep the trash around? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
I'm putting
no,
words
well, I
in
mean,
your
I
mouth.
want a device or machine that works. So
Right.
you're saying it's
So-
better just to do Chrome?
Well, that's
Chromebook?
my question: is what's the purpose? What would you be using it for? Would it be just internet research, or are they going to be? Because like Crawford, I think he's CTE, so he's trying to do some or tech apps, so he's trying to do some actual applications and stuff. If they're doing just mostly like research or credit recovery type stuff, Chromebook. The reason we love the Chromebooks, it's so simple,
Okay.
it's so easy to manage. But it
I mean, that's what Blaze does is web based, so I guess
okay.
he can continue to use those.
That honestly probably be his best bet and most cost effective.
Okay.
And you can make the choice to give him some of the brand new ones once it's on your campus. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So looking ahead, Mr. Walker and I, we're excited about this purchase, but at the same time, we know 2026 is going to come up quickly, and so we need a sustainability plan, and then we also need to pair that with the growth that's coming, because it's not just at elementary, it's going to be everywhere. And then, you know, I know the new building will be opening. Again, when that happens, I don't know, but we're going to have a plan in place. So once we get all of this settled and put in the request into the board report for January, and we get this purchase pushed through, we're going to start sitting down and talking about that plan. So we'll probably ask for your input, so be thinking of that.
Do you know if they, plan for, computer purchase and stuff like that when they do build the new buildings?
I am not aware of what's built in with as far as the bond and how that works. I know that Mr. Johnson has reached out to Mr. Walker, myself, and Mr. Boyette in regards to what devices will be in the classroom for instruction, but not student devices. It's mostly the projection fees and screens and things like that. I have not heard anything else outside of that. With 2 of the campuses, or 2 of the grade levels leaving elementary and 1 leaving the junior high, there may be some shift of student devices there, but again, the growth is what's going to do us in if we're not prepared for it, because whether we open the new building or not, there's more and more coming.
We do have a current demographic study, and that's what I've used in the past to help me plan for the growth.
And do you want to give them a little touch on what you've done in the past with the plan in regards to how you pull those funds aside, knowing for 2026?
You know, I've talked to Ms. Ming, what a previous CFO had us do is actually, once we kind of had a plan of this is the kind of growth we're looking at, this is kind of the costs we're looking at, you know, this year, is to start setting up a capital improvement account, and so they essentially would shift the funds yearly into that account, some for infrastructure, some for actual devices, so that we kind of can plan ahead, feed the money in ahead of time, you know, when it's time to purchase, then we draw down the account, so we're not scrambling at the end.
And it would not affect our instructional materials, because what's going to happen is with this teacher device purchase, it will impact that substantially, but ESSER 2 and 3 will relieve us in that area. But we have to have a plan moving forward, because our science adoption is in 2025, I believe. And so that will be something that we need to look at and plan for, Tima. And some, we have to share that instructionally and with technology now, so. Any questions on that?
And we decided that so the current team of money is left over from last year, and in the current biennium. And-
Which is 12,000.
Right, it's very, because of Esther, they have
Okay.
drastically reduced it, and they probably will increase it from next biennium. But from an adoption perspective, we've already analyzed that this isn't going to kill us on an adoption this biennium, correct?
This will not, there are no adoptions in this biennium, and so we are good to go in regards to
Awesome.
that. Like I said, the most frequent or current is going to be that science adoption in 2025.
Awesome.
So we'll have committees that are put together at each campus level. We will make sure we go through that whole process. Okay, so CNAs. I know that sometimes we like to put those out closer to the end of the year. One thing that has come back, and I keep hearing it time and time again when we're working with teachers, is they are excited that they're getting materials and things, but they're not excited that it's coming middle of the year or well after the school year has started. I completely agree with that frustration. So in order to stay ahead of the curve, I would like for you to try to get your CNAs put together for February and pushed out to your teachers so you can have your affinity back to us in March if it's regarding technology or instructional purposes. I know, for example, like your English department, they could have already had that information to you and we wouldn't be working mid-year. Same thing with the intervention kits and things like that. These purchases need to come much sooner. Ms. Ming was in the last meeting that we had. She agrees that we could get all of these things started. That way, when we open the doors in August, our teachers are ready with the materials that they're going to have. So the help I need from y'all is to make sure you get that CNA pushed out soon. I'd like that you add a piece on data or usage on programming, if you could. So we are making wise purchases. We have a plan with the rest of ESSER3 for 3 to 5 years to sustain us. But if we need to make tweaks and adjustments, that's where this is gonna need to come forward. I know that y'all as principals meet in a PLC, so if that's something you could maybe talk about, I know you're probably not meeting before you come back. But maybe you could talk about that in your January PLC and get those pushed in February, and then the information back to Mr. Walker, Ms. Minnie, and myself by March. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to complete it by March?
Yes, your committee, all your data pulled, and I know that's gonna have to put your committees together sooner than you would like. I just feel like that's where part of our downfall is that we all want that, but in order to make a wise purchase and what our teachers are actually needing, and our students are needing, I think we need the data in sooner.
Okay.
I've got zero data for.
From the CNA?
From your
Just from
CNA,
the
just from your CNA. And I know Ms. Glenn has one that I think Mr. Steen has used as well last year. So y'all will get together and y'all can put that, you may tweak it more for your campus, but if everybody could add that data for usage or programming, that would significantly help us on our end.
Yes.
Okay, any questions?
This may not be my lane, so to speak, but I was just totaling up these new devices. And the high school only has 300. Is that enough to plan? I mean, I know we talked about planning for growth, but
This is, I sent a message to Mr. McCullough and you, and that's where I just asked what he would like. Now, he did say 1-to-1 at first. I said,
yeah.
She said, what's the perfect scenario? I said 1-to-1.
I did not say perfect scenario.
Yeah.
You said that. I said, well, what could you use? Well, we'll have to read it again. But he said 2 per department is what he would like,
At minimum.
minimum. So that's where we're kind of sitting. Now, Mr. Sheen, if you'd like to give up some of the junior high devices, I think he would allow you.
Well, I mean, if he's gonna have probably what 500 kids next year.
But you will be losing the biggest class and gaining the smallest class.
Yeah.
So we may have to look at some of that as far as, I'll let y'all rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
I think that's across the board with the growth.
I know, we'll just have to see where it settles too. I mean, we're projecting,
So there's these 300 plus an
Right.
additional 60. Is that right? Is this 60 into this 300 right here
say
for
it
the
one more time.
lab? So it's an additional 60.
Yes.
Would that go 300 plus 60?
Yes, that
So that's
60
putting
is
it
for
at
his,
360?
yes,
Okay.
it would go to the high school.
There you go. That helps.
So that's where we kind of played with that, and then the 50 for additional growth at the elementary.
Okay.
Because that 4th grade group going into 5th is 140, and the 3rd grade going to 4th is 138-ish, and then I think our 2nd graders going to 3rd is pretty large as well, close to
We enrolled
130.
this month.
Yeah, I mean, if I can find a way to get rid of those carts, that would be some other devices that we could.
Well, and that's one thing that we talked about prior to, we lost all those iPads at the elementary. So we do have 6 carts sitting at the elementary that are empty.
But are they iPad parts?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it
Oh.
does.
Well, we'll
I
need to
will
double
say.
check it, yeah. Most of them will fit.
I think that
I'm
there's
Sure, I
the
have
ones
one
that will.
iPad cart that we could.
That
probably
is something to think
send
about
it
though,
somewhere else.
if we're gonna be shifting devices across the district, we may want the cart to be able to make that maybe easier.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know.
Just figure out, as far as, we added 16 on here, we probably need to go ahead and get a total much like this. That would see what holds Chromes out of those 6 that are at the elementary, or if there's like, you have the iPad one at the high school, but is it just for iPads or is it for Chromes?
Yeah, I don't know.
So we probably need to get a total on that, and then that way Mr. Sheen can make a better plan for his, and then we know you want carts for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. for mobility and stuff like that.
To get them around, if I'm only gonna have 2 per department, yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I think it looks great. I think that for me, it's just the not knowing at the growth and how to prepare. But I do appreciate the fact that it is in place and there is funding available, because clearly we are not where we should be for our kiddos and the technology. So I think that everyone will be happy and with the projected purchase.
You good?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you all for coming.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Payne, thank you, Mr. Walker.
Everybody pause this.